Are the Halo collar and the SpotOn GPS fence really all that different? There's the warning. The flashy tech terms and the fancy names these brands have come up with for their AI are all just distractions from what really matters. Are these collars reliable training tools that will help you keep your dog safe? So stick around and let's get to know these collars for a bit before you go fork over close to a G. And hey, you can use the links in the video description to get a discount on whichever of these collars you choose. Alright, so let's take a close-up look at each of these collars. Here's the SpotOn. The power button is here. The static correction prongs go right there. You get this little tool to tighten the static correction prongs, and you can also use it to test to make sure the static correction is working without getting shocked, which is nice. These are the clasps here, and you adjust the size like this. Slide it down, put that nub back in. The GPS antenna is located right here. You want that facing towards the sky when your dog wears it. It's sturdy, perhaps a little bulky, but well designed. Made right here in the USA. And you get this charging base, which plugs right into the wall. The collar sits in it, just like this. And then, that can sit on a table nicely. And here is the Halo collar. The power button's kind of hard to see, but it's right here. And the static correction prongs go right there. Make sure to hand tighten those only. They may look like you're supposed to crank them down, but I've seen all too many people with broken prongs. You don't want to end up in that situation. There's a leash loop here, which you may not want to use with the static correction prongs installed, although I've pulled on it pretty hard with them installed and it wasn't too uncomfortable. I'm not a dog though. The clasps are here. You adjust the size by sliding this plastic around. I just did it again today. It is incredibly annoying. If you have a lot of extra collar strap, you can cut off the excess and they give you tools to recrimp it there and get a nice factory finish again. You charge it here and you get this magnetic connector that plugs into a USB-C cable. Then you have to find a place to plug it in. It doesn't come with a wall plug, and all the wall plugs in my household are still the old USB type, not USB-C yet. So just a heads up on that. And you can take this fabric cover off, and here is the naked collar, if you will. Here's a little speaker for the feedback tones. It's a little smaller than the SpotOn, perhaps a little more sleek, especially with that fabric cover. I don't know where they stuck that active GPS antenna either. It's basically the same size as the older models. It comes with one of these indoor beacons, which I haven't had much luck with. We'll talk more about that in a bit. So as you might expect, both of these work with smartphone apps. They're pretty easy to set up. It takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes with each one. You set up a profile for your dog, you link the collar to the app over Bluetooth, you set up your subscription if you're using one. Then you have to do some GPS initialization. You take it outside and make sure you get a nice strong signal. Then you're pretty much good to go. Halo gives an awful lot of training materials and you have to press through it as you're setting it up. SpotOn's training resources are a bit more straightforward and digestible, a little easier to kind of pick out the main points, I think. But I'm sure that's just a matter of personal preference. Then to set up fences, both offer two methods. The first is to literally draw the fence on a map on your phone. And then the second is to carry a collar and walk the fence boundary. The big difference here is that SpotOn automatically drops the fence posts as you walk, whereas with Halo you have to physically press a button on your phone to drop each fence post that you want. I like the automatic fence post dropping that SpotOn offers. It's much more user-friendly, but Halo system's not the end of the world either. SpotOn recommends at least a half an acre for your fence, whereas Halo says the fences can get as small as 250 square feet. I've tested that and it is simply not reliable enough for fences that small in my experience. Approach the boundary one more time. Oh God. I doubt either of them could do a 250 square foot fence, honestly. But SpotOn has definitely performed better for me in those small fence situations.
Oh, there's the alert. We'll go a little bit further here. And there's the warning. Now I'll back up and see if I can get back to the safe zone. There's the alert again. And we're good.
It still gives me that reliable alert, warning, and correction feedback. But yeah, with such a small fence, you can definitely notice the GPS drift a lot more. I tend to agree with SpotOn's conservative stance on fence size here. Basically, once you account for GPS drift and you leave enough space between hazards like roads and maintaining minimum fence widths, you're gonna want about a half an acre or more to allow your dog to roam free and to really feel free. One more thought on making fences is that I do think SpotOn's GPS-based Keep out zones and home zones are a useful tool. They need to be at least 30 feet by 30 feet, but you can make them any shape or size larger than that you'd like. This is what Halo primarily uses the beacons for, and because they're Bluetooth, they're limited to circular zones and they can only be so large. But more importantly, as I mentioned before, in my experience with those beacons, they really haven't worked great, or even at all for that matter. Let's do a little rapid fire before we dive into boundary tests. SpotOn recently launched their off-grid mode, which allows you to set up fences in places where you don't have Wi-Fi or cell or anything. So if you take your dog hiking somewhere really out there, like Alaska or the mountains out west, you can still bring your SpotOn with you and set up fences when you get there. On the flip side, Halo allows you to jump from cell carrier to cell carrier when you're traveling internationally. I haven't had the opportunity to try out either of those yet, so if you have, let me know what you think in the comments. And battery life is pretty similar on both of these collars. Neither of them are really going to last more than a day. It's kind of a charge it every day you want to use it type of thing. If longer battery life is important to you, then there are some other solutions that can provide that, but they're really a different product class than the SpotOn and Halo. Halo does require a subscription to even use it, which I did just get an email from them the other day saying that it's going to be about $10 a month going forward for the basic plan. SpotOn offers a cellular plan as well. It is optional, it will work without it, but I think a lot of people are going to want the subscription for things like escape alerts, low battery warnings, live tracking, those types of things. Their plan maxes out at $10 a month, and you can get it a little cheaper by opting for 1 or 2 year plans. All right, so let's talk boundary feedback and field testing. It's getting a little warm in here. My main takeaway for SpotOn is that it's very consistent with issuing distinguished alert, warning, and corrective feedback in a logical sequence so that your dog can really understand what the collar's telling them. Now, I was having some issues with it last summer. Oh, and it's correcting right now, so no warning there either. I talked with customer support, they swapped it out. Since then, it's been working reliably as I'm used to. I've even tested it in a Boston area blizzard, and even with all that snow, as long as there's a clear view of the sky, it just holds those lines perfectly. Halo has always been a little bit glitchy with the boundary feedback. The Halo Collar 3 has come a long way with the inclusion of an active GPS antenna. Prior to that, it was using a passive GPS antenna, so the 2 Plus and older models were working with much less signal strength. I'm guessing that's why I was seeing all those artifacts, like not getting any boundary feedback at all.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening.
Getting corrected with no warnings.
There's a warning right there. Oh God.
And even getting corrected inside the safe zones of the fence.
Oh, and now I'm getting shocked out of nowhere. Oh my goodness.
With the active GPS antenna, it's a lot better, but there's still room for improvement. Sometimes it'll work just fine. Other times it'll progress through the feedback sequence without me moving at all. And still sometimes it'll skip warning and boundary feedback and jump straight to that emergency static correction feedback. The logic is just not as dependable as you get with SpotOn. And that's really the ultimate reason that I think SpotOn's the better choice here. SpotOn's come down quite a bit in price, even since this time last year. It's about $1,000 as I'm recording, whereas the Halo's about $700. Obviously, they're both expensive, but I do think what you're paying for here is a difference in quality. The focus of the SpotOn is clearly high quality components, extreme accuracy. That's really my impression of the product. Whereas with Halo, it kind of seems like they've always been playing catch up. It's kind of like they built this product and then they've been trying to figure out how to make it work the way they always wanted it to since then. And they've gotten a lot better. The Halo Collar 3 is so much closer to SpotOn than it was when I was testing the Halo Collar 2 Plus and earlier models. But there's still room for improvement. And just based on sort of the foundations of these products, I would feel much more settled going with a collar like SpotOn than I would with the Halo. But hey, if you like the look of the Halo, it's a bit cheaper. The app offers a bit more of an ecosystem, activity tracking, those types of things. I can definitely see why you might want to go for the Halo instead. But if a sort of high quality product without any bells and whistles is what drives your decision, it's what drives mine, I think SpotOn's going to be the product you're looking for.